I took part in this year's GMTK Game Jam and I realized that I wanted to continue working on the game. Let me tell you the full story. At the start of the jam, like many other people, I was awaiting the team reveal. And the team ended up being built to scale. I did not like this team. And in fact, I still don't, but it was what it was. The first thing that popped into my mind was a game like Window Frame, where you use your bullets to expand the screen size while also fighting enemies. But that already exists, and it's hard to expand on the concept while not being called a clone of the game. And it's also usually not the best idea to go with the first idea you come up with, since a lot of people will probably have the same idea as you then. My friend, who for some reason has thousands and thousands of game ideas, helped me figure out what genre I wanted my game to be. After a long ping-pong battle of ideas, I decided to make a Metroidvania. So I found a whiteboard online and started drawing some ideas against the wall. It was pretty hard to incorporate the theme into a Metroidvania game. Here's what I got. You're playing as a black hole who has multiple abilities, like shrinking objects to remove a problem on his path or shrinking himself to get through a small space. He can also throw his head, which would do damage to enemies or any other obstacles. But there is a twist, ladies and gentlemen. He can switch his form into a white hole, making him be able to increase object size and increase his own size. Need to get rid of a water flow? Increase an object over it to make it stop flowing, then shrink it down and it's done. Both of them would have their own personalities, like they're both incredibly intelligent. The white hole is peaceful and wouldn't harm any enemies. One of his character specific abilities is called meditation, which would make all the enemies not harm him and even help him out. The black hole drinks a lot, and one of his character specific abilities would be entering a state where no not living danger could hurt him. Wanna walk on spikes like they're the normal floor or similar things to that? You can do that. The story goes something like this. There were two different scientists from two completely different multiverses, until they decided to start experimenting with, you would have guessed it, interdimensional travel, which is travel between multiverses. But due to an unknown variable, both of their machines misfunctioned and led them into this dimension. Not just that, but their souls also got entangled. Their main goal is to rebuild their device and figure out what variable caused this to happen. For that, they need to go through this unknown land and find these knowledge fragments and fight bosses, unlock more abilities, and so on. At this time, on the whiteboard I have listed out all of their abilities, and the only thing left to do was design the map for the game. Now, since I don't have much time to do this, I have only 96 hours for this game jam since it's their 10-year anniversary, I decided to just scramble something together and hope it looked okay. Which it did. I'm pretty proud of how the map looks. I used tutorials from YouTube on how Metroidvania's map should look like, and every power-up has its own color and their own colored door, so I can easily tell which power-up should lead to which path and so on. Now it's time to actually start developing the game. I started by making the player character sprites, since I'm one of those people who can't work with squares and circles and then plug everything in at the end. I wanted to display that the black hole is like a businessman and the white hole is some kind of like monk with his robe. After creating both of those, I went into Unity and started making the game. The first thing I wanted to get working was the switch in between the players. So when the player presses a button, it would switch them. This also costed at the player's stamina, but I don't have that currently shown. I also made this cool particle effect when they switched. The next thing I needed to do was create the stages. And I know I could have just made sprites and gone into tiles and made the map like that, but I don't really think that's a good idea. So I went to make every stage into its own sprite, which at the end I think turned out into a better idea. I don't know, it took a lot of time to do so. Yeah. I also just got some cloud sprites and star backgrounds which I grayscaled, and now I'm able to change their color a bit and make the background look better with just a simple blur effect on them. At this point I had about 72 hours to finish the game, but there were some things I had to do in real life which led me to only have 48 hours. Not to be humbled by the time I had left, I started working on the shrinking and expanding mechanics for the game, which was as simple as scaling a game object for one and shrinking it for the other. I also made this cool animation and some particle systems, but the particles for some reason didn't work and I just couldn't figure it out, so I decided to remove them. It's fine, nothing special there. In the second room there is a big pole to your right, which you could only later pass through after gaining the ability, and that's where a boss would be hiding. the third room, the one underneath the second room where the waterfall is, this is also the part of the game where you would be seeing the first enemy. I went to get his sprite, and while making it I was thinking of like space thing that could fit until I remembered supernovas exists and made him look like one in the middle of its explosion. He also has this laser attack which is indicated to the player above his head. This is also the first time I needed to make the player attack the enemy, so I programmed in the ability for the player to roll his head. It bounces 3 to 4 times before it comes back to the player, and if it touches an enemy it destroys them, with a cool particle effect. Yeah, I am now going crazy for particle effects. At this point I also realized something. That for the first time maybe I was actually having fun developing a game for a game jam. Don't get me wrong. Usually it's stressful and filled with sleepless nights, but now I just felt joy waking up to start working on this game and add a new feature or something like that. So in this moment, I figured I wouldn't even submit the game. There's no way I could make it in time. Even if I did pull all-nighters every night from this point onwards, the game would just either stop being fun to develop or would just not turn out good. But since I do like working on this game, I decided to finish it slowly and properly. With that in mind, I started to continue working on the game. I made a UI bar to show that the player has health and stamina, which you can gain over time or just by killing enemies, and would allow the player to switch between his characters. At this point, that's how far I've gotten with 24 hours left. I know this video is a shorter one, and this may not be the result you'll all wanted, but I'm hoping you'll stick around to see more of this game and some devlogs on this channel. See you all next time, and I hope you have a great day.